We are deep inside the fourth bore of the Caldecott Tunnel, where miners have completed the bench. Engineering talk for the base of the tunnel, which is now 50 feet wide and 40 feet tall for the bore's length of 3,248 feet. It all began on the eastern side of the tunnel, where workers still must wear respirators to protect their lungs.
We started tunneling about 2 years ago, in fact August 24th of 2010, and ever since then we've been doing excavation work primarily from this side of the tunnel, the eastern side, but also from the Oakland side on the west. And we broke through on the top portion of the tunnel in late 2011. That marked a major project milestone when the road header broke through on the top portion of the tunnel coming from the east. And since then we've been working on the bottom section of the tunnel called the bench, and we recently completed that.
The bench is the foundation for what you'll be driving on, and now they're working below that on what is called the invert. On the west, the 22-million-year-old rock is old and crumbling, so workers will dig 8 feet below and fill the invert with aggregate and concrete.
On the east side, the purpose of the invert is to address what's called the groundswell effect, which motorists may have noticed when they drive through the existing third bore of the Caldecott. And the reason for that groundswell is because the ground underneath the third and the fourth bore is clay, and it tends to absorb water, and with that absorption it swells. And so you get a real roller coaster effect. So to avoid that in the fourth bore, we're digging underneath that portion of the ground and also filling it in with aggregate and concrete. So now we're on the western side of the new Caldecott Fourth Bore tunnel. There are going to be 19 jet fans that are installed overhead.
Because of the steady flow of clean air, respirators aren't needed here. But each worker must carry emergency breathing gear on their back as a precaution.
This is one of 7 cross passages. The purpose of the cross passages is for motorists in the event of an incident, such as a fire, in the third or the fourth bore. Motorists will be able to leave their vehicles and use one of the 7 cross passages to get to safety.
While most of the excavation is complete, there is more than a year of intensive work still ahead.
The phase 1 would have been the excavation and the installation of initial lining, which is the shotcrete that's sprayed on the exposed ground during excavation to keep the ground in place. Phase 2 would be the smoothing of that shotcrete layer and the application of the waterproof membrane, the yellow plastic lining that looks like a giant raincoat to keep groundwater from seeping into the tunnel. Phase 3 would be the installation of the rebar cage, which is designed to deflect the energy of an earthquake. It's there for reinforcement. It's very high-strength steel. And Phase 4 would be the concrete pour itself, the cast-in-place concrete that is vibrated up through formwork until it reaches the crown. And it needs to set up, and then the formwork moves along on what look like train tracks, a gantry system, onto the next phase, and the process begins all over again.
Completion of the fourth bore in late 2013 means that every driver on Highway 24 will have their own lane of traffic. Rotating tunnel capacity by opening and shifting tunnels will no longer be necessary. Contra Costa voters, the people most often stuck in that traffic, made the improvements possible when they passed a half-cent sales tax in 2004.
Measure J support from the Contra Costa voters was absolutely the major foundational block in terms of building and being able to construct this project. It funds our school bus programs, our county connection. It funds the expansion of Highway 4, E-BART to East County, a lot of different projects throughout Contra Costa County. So the Caldecott is just a piece of that program that the voters approved, a 25-year, $2 billion transportation investment program.
Federal stimulus money was made available through the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act to finally start construction, because voters and the Metropolitan Transportation Commission had already made sizable down payments.
MTC provided the regional money so that when the state bond funds didn't come through, MTC voted all of the regional money to go direct to the Caldecott project. An additional piece is $50 million that comes from bridge toll money, which the Metropolitan Transportation Commission also voted to approve years ago when we did Regional Measure 2. Those were also important early dollars that made this project a reality.
The $402.1 million project opens to traffic in late 2013 and is on schedule and on budget. At the Fourth Bore, Mark Jones reporting.